So the challenges of having a short-term brain in a long-term relationship have everything to do with the fact that for the last 300,000 years, we've been walking around with the same anatomy. And yet circumstances, culture, life has changed so much from what it was 300,000 years ago. And yet our physiological reflexes and impulses are oftentimes not in sync with our long-term life and relational goals, so that there's a conflict. And so we have to learn how to deal with these natural reflexes and impulses. I'll give you an example. Food. So we're wired so that when we taste sweet, salty, or fatty, when that flavor profile hits our tongue, there's a big squirt of dopamine. It's highly pleasurable and enjoyable. Back in the day, 300,000 years ago, those flavors were pretty rare to come by in the environment. And if you found them, you would want to eat as much as possible from those flavors because it would give you survival advantage. It would help you live another day or another week. Fast forward 300,000 years, with the advent of agriculture and technology, we're surrounded by those foods and those flavors. Anywhere where there's food, you're going to find sweet, salty, and fatty because we still get the same dopamine hit. But if we just ate and ate and ate without stopping, we're going to have health problems. So one of my goals is to have optimal health and longevity. And we keep these chocolate-covered cashews around that are salted. And they're just so yummy because it's the perfect balance of those flavor profiles. Left to my own devices, left to my own reflexes, I'm going to just keep eating them. I'll just have one more. They're small. I'll just have one more. So what do I need to do? I need to apply strategies that are in sync with my long-term goal. So I have to apply impulse control. So that means I can feel my reflex to reach out for another one and not do it. And tell myself, Jeff, step away from the cashews. And when I do that, it's a little twinge of discomfort that I feel. I actually can feel it in my body, right? And so I have to tolerate both the frustration and the disappointment of not getting exactly what I want in that moment. Relationship is not that different, okay? So I'm the type of guy that does not like to be told what to do. And I'm married to someone that is highly intelligent, so I'm very attracted to that in her. And she also has strong opinions. And so early on in our relationship, I'd be into something, I would be working on a project, or I would be making a meal, and Rachel would come on over and she would offer her opinion or suggestion, and she could be a little bit bossy, and she knows this about herself, and she's worked on it over the years. And I would react, and my impulse, my reflex would be just to debate her, right? And to tear down her suggestion, or to defend the way I was doing it, right? And invariably, either I would end up hurting her emotionally, or we would get in some kind of argument and we would both feel bad. We have a shared goal, Rachel and I, of having a long-term, mutually satisfying relationship that's complete with joy and pleasure and adventure and fun and just the deep, profound meaning that comes from love itself. So if I act out on that reflex, I'm going to actually be moving against my long-term goal of having that mutually satisfying relationship. So I had to learn to apply impulse control. So instead of just saying that snarky thing, I would actually have to not do that, not say it. I'd have to tolerate the tension that's in my body that just wants to be released. And then I actually have to do a third thing, and this is more sophisticated than not eating cashews. I have to actually do something that's relational to dispel both the tension within me and perhaps then the tension that can be felt between us. So we do a lot of play. First off, I'm going to contact the truth that I love her. So I'm going to look in her eyes and say, I love you so much. And then I'll say something like, you are so full of good opinions, and I want to do it this way. And she might chuckle and she gets the message. She could be a little bit bossy, but she's worked on it. So I said that, right? So that's a signal to her. She softens, we kiss, it's done, right? So I'm less reactive to her, and I'm behaving in accord with my long-term goal of a mutually satisfying relationship. I don't fight her the way I used to in that way, even though that reflex is still there because it's been around for 300,000 years. And I'm not going to just acquiesce either. Sometimes her opinion is really great and I rely on it. But that reflex to fight or to debate, not so helpful with getting what it is that I really want. So this is why we have a slogan. And the slogan is, act with the result in mind, to remind our brains to have the long-term goal and to move towards that long-term goal. Act with the result in mind. And that means do something that's relational to dispel the tension that comes from not just acting on that reflex, because that reflex does not care about the quality or the longevity of my relationship. It only cares about survival. That was helpful 300,000 years ago. Not now. So try it on. Try impulse control, frustration tolerance, and doing something relational, or how I like to say, do the loving thing, to deal with that situation in a way that is in accord with your long-term goals for your relationship and for your life. Okay. Feel free to email me with questions or comments, and be well and love well.